You are watching Books, Booze, and Horror Reviews. Welcome to my channel. So today's discussion is going to be a little bit different. The book that I actually want to talk about today is one where I saw the movie first. I saw the movie several years ago. I loved it, and I still watch it all the time. And it wasn't until a pretty good while later that I found out that it was also a book. On top of that, I saw that it was written by an author who I'd read before and really enjoyed his work. And, you see things on Book Talk and on Goodreads. I saw a lot of opinions about this book. There was a lot of praise for it and a lot of criticism. Honestly, I don't know why it took me so long. It sat on my TBR forever. I'd been meaning to get to it. Then finally, recently, I finally read it. And I can definitely see why it's so polarizing. Today, we're going to be talking about The Ritual. I'll be pairing this book with a blood moon cocktail, something that symbolizes the end times, chaos, disruption. But also, I didn't have all of the ingredients for a Black Forest cocktail, so we're just going to make do with what we've got. All right, let's see what's going on here. I think I like it. The Ritual by Adam Nevill. So the general outline is pretty much the same for the book and the movie. We have a small, close-knit group of friends. They've been together since university, but they're a bit older. They've started building their adult lives, but they like to get together sometimes and have little hangouts. So they go over several options for their little boys' trip, and they decide to take a hiking trip to the Scandinavian wilderness. Why? Because what can possibly go wrong? As you can imagine, things take an unexpected turn as one of the guys has a fall and very badly hurts his knee. So the group is kind of left with the choice of trying to drag him for the rest of this super long hike or try to find a little shortcut that'll get him back to the lodge quicker and get him some help. So we take a look at the map and we see, hey, there's a chunk of completely uncharted Scandinavian forest. Let's just cut on across and we'll be done in an hour or two. Shockingly, things don't go as swimmingly as expected, and our group is struggling to survive with limited supplies, freezing temperatures, and an ancient, unspeakable evil close on their tails. So that would be the non-spoilery synopsis and also the end of the similarities between the movie and the book. So just FYI, spoilers ahoy. This gets better as the ice melts. It's growing on me. So, of course, there's always the age-old question, which was better, the movie or the book? And usually the answer is the book. This one's really hard to answer because each one kind of had their pros and cons. I would have to say overall, by a very, very close margin, maybe the movie was better. Like if I'm breaking it down, I would say part 1, the book was better. Part 2, the movie was definitely better. So part 1 of the movie and the book is our friends planning their trip, going on the hike, and getting lost in the woods. So the movie, already at the very beginning, we're differing from the book. In the book, a bunch of friends just decide to go on a hiking trip together. In the movie, at the beginning, they're planning their hiking trip, but then our main protagonist, Luke, decides to go into a liquor store, get some provisions, and one of the other friends decides to go with him. So unfortunately, while they're in there, the store winds up getting robbed, and the friend winds up getting shot and killed. Luke is completely frozen and is unable to help. So obviously, this is a huge source of tension between the friend group and very mentally taxing for Luke. I feel like that's interesting, and maybe without that, it would have been really hard to kind of build the tension that was there in the book between the friend group. I don't know about any of you, if you've had friends like from high school or college that you were super, super tight with, and then as you grow up, we kind of change, some different things start coming out, and then you kind of look at them just like, man, how are we friends? So part 1 of the book is able to convey that really well. You're able to really get inside the characters. You're able to see, their history together. You're able to see their differences, their petty jealousies, and the tension that just kind of naturally builds within the group when you're on a trip like that. On top of that, you add the frustration of being completely lost in an unfamiliar place. And then as time goes on, you have the stress of trying to survive, not knowing if you have enough tools, enough supplies to last tomorrow, the next day, not knowing if or when you're ever going to get out. This kind of slow building, just kind of natural occurring tension is something that is really hard to convey just by itself in a movie without stretching it out way too long. So I do think the movie did a good job of working with what they had and kind of finding a way around that super slow tension. But at the same time, on screen, you just can't convey just the amount of desperation, the hunger, the thirst, the freezing. It's really hard to make that really come across on the screen when you're actually experiencing it with the characters in the book. I also thought the movie did a great job of staying loyal to the first cabin scene where they find that abandoned house and they all try to go in there, get away from the elements, and they fall asleep and they all have super weird dreams and wake up in different weird compromising situations. The movie was pretty loyal to the book and it did a good job of kind of making that creepiness come through. And then we get to part 2. Part 2 is pretty much when shit gets real and we find out what's been stalking them in these woods. So in both the movie and the book, leading up to this point, our friends have been disappearing one by one and remains are being found that are not looking very pretty. And we are left with only Luke and Dom, the two who seem to butt heads the most. So in the book, we've lost all of our friends. Luke is the sole survivor, but just barely. He is on the brink of death. He falls unconscious and then wakes up in a bed thinking that he has been saved. In a sense, he has. He's been nursed just enough to not die and be kept alive for certain purposes. And as he gains consciousness, 3 people walk into the room wearing creepy masks. And as they each unmask themselves, we find that he is faced with 3 teenage kids from a death metal band. And I'm sorry, but that's kind of where I lost my horror boner. I get it, these angsty, Scandinavian death metal kids are supposed to be unstable and super energetic and unpredictable, but I couldn't connect with that. So these 3 kids have supposedly bullied this elderly woman with ancient knowledge into helping them because we want to summon a god, man, because metal. And don't get me wrong, there were a few scenes that I thought were genuinely creepy or kind of freaking cool, but I also felt like the ultimate payoff just with as much buildup as there were, it just kind of felt underwhelming to me. Now, the movie part 2, we have both Dom and Luke, still the sole survivors. They're running from this unseen force. They find a cabin out in the middle of, this clearing and decide, hey, we're going to go in there. It's better than being out here and getting caught by whatever this thing is. So, of course, they run for their lives. They stumble into this cabin and are promptly beaten the shit out of. So then we come to and we're bound, tied down in this creepy ass room. We don't know where we are, why we're there, and we hear people talking, but of course we don't speak their language, so we have no idea what it is that they want or what they're planning. So Dom gets taken first, but first he's being prepared. So they take him upstairs. We can tell that something not very awesome is happening to him just by the sounds that are coming out. So that lets our imaginations run pretty wild. And then, of course, it's time to take Dom out for the second time for the actual sacrifice. And I don't know, I feel like this entire scene, from the time that they're, that they've entered this cabin up until this point, is just such great buildup. We have that mounting feeling of dread. We have that feeling of being left in the dark, that same confusion that they're feeling. And then as Dom is out there waiting for his fate, he sees a vision of his wife coming to, say hello to him and give him a kiss. And we know that's not what's happening. And that's what makes the buildup that much better. And then we get the reveal of this forest creature that's been kind of quietly stalking them throughout the entire movie that this cult worships. And that was a bitchin' reveal. And I know a lot of times in movies like this, when there's like some big monster or something, they kind of don't really do a full reveal or just kind of keep it, mysterious and hidden. And sometimes that adds to the story, but I always say if you are going to do a full reveal of a creature, you better do good. It better be worth it, because if it's not, if it's underwhelming, it can kill the entire movie. Like that creature, I had to look at it for a while just to process what I was looking at. It was creative, it was otherworldly, and it was hella creepy. So yeah, I just felt like that good build-up and then the successful reveal just made the entire second part of that movie feel really well-paced and entertaining. And then of course being able to see this huge otherworldly creature in all of its grotesque glory, and then having an actual cult of dedicated worshippers who know exactly who and what it is that they're dealing with, it just really brought the weight of this thing's power home. And I felt like the dumb kids who just wanted to play with fire, I feel like it distracted from that. I feel like it took away from the actual horror of what it was that they were dealing with. So yeah, that's my opinion. For pacing, for creep factor, and just for overall entertainment value, I would have to lean towards the movie. But of course, I am only one person, and I would love to know what you thought. Feel free to sound off in the comments. Let me know if you like the book or the movie better. If you like either of them at all, might not just be your cup of tea. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, having a drink with me, and talking books. I appreciate you. And hey, let me know what you want to hear about next. Till next time, cheers.